attack fairly
strongly.
strongly.
But we can see that Lee Sedol is playing very strongly here. He doesn't want to get timid just because he's made some profit down here. And since the profit, if you count it in points alone, is not so big, he's trying to be very strong and finish off the game and the fight in the upper side.
Well, this is getting exciting, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, it's been pretty exciting. I'm not so sure about all this here. We have now been joined by Hajin Lee. Welcome, Hajin.
Thank you, Chris.
Secretary General of the International Go Federation, responsible for Go globally, possibly in the galaxy, I'm not sure.
I wouldn't say responsible, but I'm serving the global Go community.
Well put, well put. This must be an exciting week for you, yeah?
Yes, it has been amazing.
Have you ever seen this much attention for Go?
No, not in my lifetime. And Mr. Park from KBA has been saying that it's the first time in Go history.
It's amazing, right?
Yes.
I mean, so many journalists and headlines around the world. So
Yes.
I think we owe the Google DeepMind folks, need to send them a little something.
Yes, yes.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you go ahead.
Oh, sure. My name is Hajin Lee, professional three-dan player from Korea. Currently, I'm working at the International Go Federation.
Okay. Now, tell us a little about the International Go Federation, or IGF.
Yes, we call it IGF, and IGF has 75 countries and territories registered as member. Mm-hmm. And we organize World Amateur Go Championship and Elite Mind Games, World Mind Sports Games, and we do some promotional activities as well.
75 countries around the world where Go is played.
Yes.
So tell us, I mean, there's the obvious ones, the big, Japan, Korea, China, which are the big Go playing countries where there are, I think, 60 million players in China. You probably know the numbers.
So the largest country in terms of Go population is by far China. But after China, we have Japan and Korea, and Chinese Taipei is quite big as well. After that, we have the US and Russia, Germany, France. They all have quite substantial Go population.
Now, there are some interesting new Go countries. You've had quite an aggressive program in the last few years to develop Go in some interesting countries. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, the active countries have been Venezuela. They have Go instructors program for a few years. And Mexico is also quite active. And Cuba has been just interacting with the American Go Association, right?
Well, it's been fascinating because, of course, there's been that whole thaw after 50 years of, I mean, it's 90 miles off of our shore, but politically, but it's actually, there were a number of Go players who traveled to Cuba and had a very small number of Go players in Cuba, but I think that was a bit of a part of that thaw. And you should talk a little bit about the role of Go as a sort of a currency to try and spread world, not just the game, but more than that, right?
Right. Inside the Go community, we have some invisible bond between us. And then I think we have very special thing going on because I don't think any other sports, for example, like if your hobby is tennis, like you wouldn't be too happy to meet other tennis hobby player, right? But in Go, like when you meet other Go players, you're so happy. And then you instantly become friends. I think Go connects us together.
I think you're right. I think one of the things is that when you go to some other country and you meet a Go player, because up until now, and now maybe this is changing, but it was kind of, you play Go. Oh,
yes,
good.
Right.
You're special. You must be a special person.
Really? You play Go?
And so immediately you would have that bond.
Yes.
So you have the competitions, the World Amateur Go Championships, other things. Talk a little bit about, and this kind of takes us into what's going on with the AI and with Alphago, the whole mind sports that's been, I think, really championed in China the last few years.
Right, yes. The mind sports movement is not new, but it has been getting bigger in the last few years. And then I think people really started seeing the benefit of playing these board games in order to exercise your brain, just as you would exercise your body.
So that's been, I think, and there's actually been research done on that, right?
Yes, there have been a few researches about Go and chess and other mind sports. And the research studies are suggesting again and again that there is real benefit in doing these mind sports regularly.
Now, in places like certainly China and Korea, perhaps Chinese Taipei, to some extent the U.S. Although, Michael, because I want to bring you in on this, you learned in your dad taught you.
Yeah, in California.
But when you wanted to get to know the game better, you had to go to Japan.
Well, in my case, it was really extreme because when I grew up, there was no internet. And even more than now, there were no strong players in America. So like the strongest player in America, I think when I first learned he was on the East Coast, so I would have to go to New York. And they were like playing...
You lived in California.
I lived in California, yeah. And then there were some strong players in San Francisco, and there was a big Go club in Los Angeles. So Los Angeles was only 2 or 3 hours away in a car ride. So what I could actually do was go to Los Angeles and play in some tournaments there, which I did. And there was a Japanese, Japanese Americans club and a Korean club too. So I went to those places to play in the games. But that was like they had a tournament once every few months. And in between, I was just playing a few friends in Santa Barbara where I lived. So like I would have these dry periods where I wasn't really making much progress. And then when I went to Los Angeles, I would be, it would suddenly come together in just one day. And I would be moving up something like 2 ranks overnight. Just because it had been so much time that I'd not been realizing that potential.
One other question I'd like to just talk a little bit about. Another very exciting thing that the IGF has been involved in is the whole pro system. And this goes to Michael's point. When he's a non-professional pro, and we are, of course, extremely proud of you because you come from the U.S., but in fact, you're a Japanese pro.
That's right,
which is great, but, in order for you to become a pro, you had to go to Japan. There was no U.S. pro program.
Yes.
Now we actually have several. We don't have it. You have hundreds of pros in Japan, and,
yes.
But now there's a professional system in the U.S., very small, growing. A professional system in Europe. Can you just talk a little bit? I know you've got to get back, but just talk a little bit about that because that's been hugely exciting.
Yes. So far we only had professional players from Asia or the Westerners who became pro in Asia, like Michael, but. Last 3 years, I think it has been about 3 or 4 years,
3 or 4 years,
since the American Go Association and European Go Federation started qualifying their own professional players. And there are concerns that they are not as strong as the Asian pros at the moment. But even when Korea started selecting professional players, they were not as strong as Japanese pros. But then they caught up.
I'll say.
Yes. So I think it was a really good start, and I have high hopes in these systems.
Well, we have high hopes too, and you and the International Go Federation have been doing such wonderful work, so we really appreciate it, and I know all the other Go Federations around the world do, so keep up the great work, and thank you so much for dropping in to visit with us.
Thank you. I also wanted to say thank you to you, Chris, for having the e-journal.
The e-journal,
the American Go Association e-journal. I'm a long-time subscriber.
Oh, thank you.
And then, yes, that's where I see most of the Go news in the West.
We'll have to work on getting you to be a columnist for us. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right.
That's Hajin Lee. She's the Secretary General for the International Go Federation.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, Hajin was very modest when she was talking.
Of course
Firstly, when she was talking about her efforts to promote Go throughout the world. Also, the fact that Korean Go was fairly weak at one time.
And not that long ago, right?
Not that long ago, but that was basically because of the effect of the war that it had on Korea. And so it just disrupted their country, which made it impossible for people to be setting Go. And that was basically the reason they had so few strong Go players. And actually the same could be said of China. But actually both countries, both Korea and China, had thousands of years of history of playing Go. And because of that, they could recover fairly quickly. Like, it only took them a decade. Well, almost immediately, they had new players coming up who were actually quite gifted. And it just took some time to realize how strong they were. So they already have players coming up at the beginning. You could call them the fathers of their modern Go associations, who were already showing promise, but just didn't have enough rivals or competing players to really realize their full potential. And then after that, the next generation was already getting to be very strong.
Well, and before we get back to the game, just one other thing on Hajin Lee and the International Go Federation. So the International Go Federation and all, I think she said 70, I'm terrible with that.
72 countries, I think.
Okay,
yes.
72 countries.
There might be regions in there, so
right.
I'm not sure.
But let me just speak, Hajin, it's not like she has a staff of hundreds or even dozens. It is it's an amazing organization in terms of being responsible for, promoting and supporting Go around the world, and to do it with as limited resources as they do is really quite an amazing thing. And one of the things I'm hoping is that with all of this interest now in Go, thanks to this historic match, that Hajin and the International Go Federation will be able to get more resources as they continue their great work.
That would be very good.
I know you're itching to get back. Looks we've had some developments here.
Well, we've had some moves here. Lee Sedol did play the relatively safe move by playing here.
You played your move.
Yeah, yes, I did suggest that move. And so at this point, the situation is that black has one eye.
One eye.
And needs one more eye to make a life.
Right.
Now, there's a potential eye on the side here. In order to take that eye away, white would have to do something drastic like this. But actually, black still has some space out here, in which case I think black would be able to make another eye. So white played this is the shape move. I'm sure on the priority network this would be a high priority. And we can see, although white has lost some points here, AlphaGo is not as desperate as it was towards the end of game 4. And all of the moves we're seeing here played by white. Locally,